Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Welcome to this video if you are Muslim and watching this, and for everybody else, peace be upon you as well. So what you're about to see is a video that I did with my clients after, of course, letting them know that I was going to be putting it on YouTube for all the Muslims who reached out to me on Instagram to help them with their Ramadan protocol. So a couple things I want to show you real quick before we actually get into the webinar that I did were a couple little corrections that I made. So let me dive in here real quick. There's Sadaf, one of my clients. So I designed a Ramadan meal planner, which I'm going to link down below in the video description, and a couple little adjustments I wanted to make. So I was actually, to be honest, when I made the presentation, I had overloaded my schedule a little bit today, and there were a couple errors in the slides that I kind of had to recover from on the webinar. So I just wanted to clarify before I actually upload it that what you're seeing here are the little edits that I made. So for instance, when I was actually analyzing my own Ramadan fats, because to be honest, I don't really track fats. I go by feel because my body naturally does not like too many fats. So I'm able to go by feel, and my body's actually able to adjust. Now, the funny thing is my body doesn't like too many fats except for Ramadan when I'm low carbing, because I mean, I've just been doing this for so long and my body intuitively craves more fats when I'm in a period of low carbs. So I was actually looking at the macro breakdown of my sahur, and I tend to have 55 to 65 grams of carbs in my sahur. You'll see in the webinar that you're about to watch that I said 25 grams, but I was only counting the eggs. Usually what I do is I'll do eggs and avocado, as well as some turkey bacon. When I count it all out, it really comes out to 55 to 65. And again, I put this in for 170, which is one of my clients' weights, but I weigh 205. So you'll see these are my typical macros during Ramadan. And you can put your stuff in there too. I also put in a little Ramadan lift calculator for my clients. So any of my clients who are watching this on YouTube, again, you're doing the top set, drop set method. So work up to a top set according to your sets and reps in the Trainerize app. And once you work up to your top set, then for your remaining sets of that lift, you're going to just use the number calculated on the right here. So let's say that, you know, I was deadlifting, and on my top set at 8, I got, you know, 455. Yeah, like I'll be able to lift that much in Ramadan. But for example, 341.25. So you just round that to the nearest number that you can actually load on the bar. So that'd be 340, and that's what you do, okay? So anyways, guys, enjoy the webinar. It's coming up next. Enjoy this meal planner spreadsheet, and feel free to reach out to me on any social media platforms. You can comment down below on YouTube, or you could, so comment down below on YouTube, or you could reach out to me on Instagram at Muscle, or you could find me on my Facebook page, which you should be following anyway. So let me just show you that real quick. Boom, boom. Here is Facebook. And move this out of the way. Pull up my page. So it's Munir-Lazuni Awakened Athlete. So be sure to give me a follow because I post a lot of great content on my Facebook page. So Munir-Lazuni-Awakened Athlete. That's how you spell my name. And a lot of great content on here. Free fitness content. And of course, if you want to take it to there, all my videos, which you'll see on YouTube as well, many of these, except for the live videos, I only do those on Facebook. And of course, if you'd actually like to work with me and become a client to accelerate your results, don't follow that guy, Be Motivated, who just popped up on there. He's a very generic trainer, but I actually don't just throw you a program or a nutrition plan. It's actually a coaching and mentorship program to ensure that it happens. That's my signature sauce, where I'm actually working with people online to make sure that you're accountable to your goals, and that we don't just shift your habits with training and nutrition. We don't just shift your mindset and the way that you handle your obstacles and speak to yourself, but we shift your identity as a human being and as a man to allow you to become a driven man instead of being an underachiever. So anyways, guys, enjoy the webinar, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace. And salam alaikum. For quite a bit of the protocol that we use with the top set, drop set method, as well as some carb cycling and fasting information. But here's the presentation. How to get ripped during Ramadan, or at least maintain your muscle mass while losing weight only from fat and not from muscle. So during Ramadan, chances are you're going to lose weight. Now, there are some people who actually gain weight during Ramadan, and I actually did have a Ramadan in 2017 where I gained weight because I was eating more calories than I was burning while trying the carb cycle, but while eating very, very high fat. So we're going to dive in to all the different potential outcomes of Ramadan and why they occur. So and we're also going to be covering the top set, drop set method, which is a method that I use with my clients in month 5 to get really, really great results, which actually happens to work incredibly well during Ramadan, as you'll see later with my volume adjusted protocol. So again, this protocol is meant for men who lift and who have optimized their metabolism training. However, most of the same principles apply for women who lift. So since everybody should lift, if you're a woman and you're watching this and you don't lift, you should lift because it's going to help you. Just make sure you work with somebody who will teach you how to do it properly. And of course, if you're a man, it goes without saying you should lift because you got to have muscle if you want to be a man. I don't care what you say. It is just a requirement because if you lift as a man, it's going to boost you in so many more ways than just the physical, but also in the mental. It's going to boost your testosterone levels, which objectively is just good for your health, longevity, and everything else. So diving into the whole topic of RomaBahn metrics. So there's a couple different things to account for while you are doing Ramadan, while you're fasting Ramadan. And Sadaf, this applies to you because I know that you trip out when you get flat. Calling you out a little bit with love there, brother. But essentially, you're going to go flat during Ramadan, which is because you're going for a period of 15, 16 hours without eating. So there's a substance that is stored in your muscles called glycogen. So when we consume carbohydrates, the body stores it as glycogen within the muscle tissue as well as the liver and numerous other tissues. But relevantly speaking, it's going to be stored in the muscle. And so when you are in a fasted state, your body's first going to get rid of all of its glycogen until your body starts to adapt and use more of fat as a resting energy source. So that's going to give you the appearance as if you've lost 5 to 10 pounds of muscle. And because your muscle isn't popping through your fat, it's also going to give the appearance that you've gained 5 to 10 pounds of fat. Unless you're already under 10% body fat, then you're just going to look really, really lean and flat. However, if you have more than 10 to 12% body fat, you're going to have the appearance of having gained fat simply because the muscle is not popping through the fat anymore because you're flat. However, this will go away during the periods of Ramadan where you do carb up, which with my protocol you'll see is every single Monday and potentially on some Saturdays as well, and a medium carb up on Thursdays. But again, I don't want to get too much into that too ahead of myself. But essentially, it's important to account for that because psychologically speaking, you're going to freak out. Anybody's going to freak out to go flat, and that includes myself. I used to freak out and say, wow, I already lost all this muscle during Ramadan. But what I learned over time, because I've been, lifting consistently for almost 10 years now, and I've done Ramadan since I was 9 years old. So I have a pretty good account. I know very well how the body responds. So the one thing that you need to account for is while your endurance and your volume capacity will go down during Ramadan, as long as you keep your strength metrics and lifts up, you're not going to lose any muscle. And that's something I really want to drive home because you can always build up more glycogen storage in your muscles, but the actual muscle tissue and the muscle cells, as long as you're getting 1 to 1.5 grams per body weight in protein per day, there's no reason for your body to lose any muscle. And as long as you're keeping up with your strength lifts, there's also no reason for your body to lose any muscle. However, if you dip your protein, your body's going to have to use some of that muscle protein to sustain its regular health needs for protein. And if you don't lift, your body during that period of starvation will have no reason to maintain that muscle. So that's why it's very important that you keep your strength lifts up, as well as getting in your protein. You'll see that in past Ramadans, I've tried doing, like really, really low carb, and there were some that worked, there were some that didn't work. But it's important that you keep your training intensity up to maintain that muscle by strength training. But again, if everything else is off, like your water intake, your sodium intake, all your other macros, like don't even worry about all that stuff. Just focus on your protein. And that's something that we all stress in month 1 in the program as well. So a little bit of a personal story. I've mixed in some of the slides from my original Ramadan presentation, which I gave about 2 years ago at a personal training gym I once worked at. And essentially, when I was 17 years old, I was a total nutrition nerd, and I was able to successfully lose 10 pounds of fat without losing any muscle and actually gain strength during Ramadan. I'm going to actually dive into the protocol I used in a second. However, when I was 18, I had a very unsuccessful Ramadan. I'm going to dive into the crappy protocol I used at that time as well so that you can avoid my mistakes. And again, I gave that presentation when I was 22. So 19 through 21, which was all the data I had till then. I had a successful Ramadan cut. I've also had a successful Ramadan cut at 22, 23, and mostly 24. So here's a little bit of the history when you're, again, the protocol I followed at age 17 was I was about 180 pounds and 18 to 20% body fat at that time. So I've been lifting consistently for about a year at that point. And at the end of Ramadan, I was about 170 and 14% body fat. And that was one of the first times I actually saw like an outline of abs. I was probably about 14 to 15% body fat, honestly. And I was able to maintain my strength by, 1, my nutrition protocol. So I'm going to explain why in a second I followed a cyclic ketosis diet. But essentially, the way that you do a cyclic ketosis diet, and the particular one I followed was called the anabolic diet, which was on stronglifts.com. You start off with 12 days of no carbs, which, by the way, if you work and have other obligations other than lifting weights, really, really sucks because you have no energy whatsoever. However, I was a kid on summer vacation, so it didn't really matter. I just laid around anyways playing video games. But 12 days, no carbs, followed by a 5-day on ketosis, 2-day off, meaning eating carbs. So what that means is after the first 12 days, I did 2 days of high carbs, carved up. It was awesome. You know, you get this crazy fullness in your muscles. You get a nice pump. And then I'd follow it up with 5 days on ketosis, 2 days on carbs. So the whole idea behind ketosis, the reason I implemented this is that ketosis is when your body has such little carbs for such an extended period of time that it actually has to break down triglycerides from your fat cells to produce ketones. Now, ketones can be used by your brain as fuel in the absence of glucose, which glucose is derived from carbs. So if you have no carbs for an extended period of time, your brain has no glucose, and therefore your brain cannot function until your body starts producing ketones. So that's why on this protocol around day 10 to 12, that's when your energy levels start kicking back up. And that's why you only do like 2-day carb ups back to ketosis to keep that ketosis going. And my theory behind that is that if I'm not eating or drinking for 16 hours a day, if I get my body in this fat burning mode, I'll lose more fat. Well, it did work, but it isn't the most practical protocol moving forward for most working adults. And that's where the protocol I'm going to describe in a couple minutes comes from. And then my training style at that point, I had just been following strong lifts 5x5 for a while. And I had kind of made my own version because I didn't like squatting 3 times a week and I wanted to mix in front squats. So I was kind of doing my own bastardized version of strong lifts with much lower volume. So at that point, I was usually doing about 3 to 5 sets per lift. Which would be like about 9 to 15 sets per day on each workout. However, I cut my volume down to just 1 set of each with ascending sets, which means like, let's say that my squat weight was like 2 plates for 5 reps. Well, I would work up to it. So I would do like 135, which is 1 plate for 5 reps. Then I would do 185 for 5 reps. Then I would do 2 plates, which is 225 for 5 reps. So I was still getting some volume, but I wasn't doing very much volume at that top set. I also wasn't doing any volume after the top set. And that's where you're going to see towards the end of this video or towards the end of this protocol that I implement the top set, drop set method to allow you to get more volume in without overloading your body's capacity to recover, your body's capacity to work and maintain good form, and your body's capacity to just perform, period. So, so this was my training split, you know, squat, bench, barbell row, workout A, then workout B, front squat, overhead press, deadlift. That was my version of strong lifts, and it worked pretty well. I gained some strength. And again, it was a good protocol, and there's a lot that one can take away from it, which you'll see implemented within the current protocol. But again, it's not really sustainable for most working adults. Now, my second Ramadan, I totally screwed up because I just crash dieted because I had read, because again, I was a nutrition nerd. I've always been a nutrition nerd. So I read a ton about intermittent fasting, and I was convinced that it was magic and that because it would boost your ghrelin levels, which is a hormone produced when you fast, that my growth hormone levels would be so high that it wouldn't matter what I ate. So I just ate whatever I wanted. And I literally lost all my gains. I dropped 23 pounds. My squat went down from 365 to 275. My bench went down from 275 to like 205, 225. My deadlift went down from 500 to 365. So all the serious work I put in senior year of high school, gaining 50 pounds, a lot of which was fat, but most of which was muscle, I lost all of it. So I learned my lesson, which is that protein intake really counts. If I had just kept my protein up during that period, I probably would have maintained at least 10 more pounds of muscle instead of straight up losing 10, or at least 5 to 10 more pounds of muscle instead of just losing straight up like 10 to 15 pounds of muscle. But either way, Ramadan is an opportunity to get ripped and or to make gains. I have a protocol based for both based on my experience. The training style is going to be relatively similar. The diet is really where the differences are going to be. But here is my general solution, and this is what I'm going to be applying for myself because I have had 7 more Ramadans to really experiment with different things. And I'm always experimenting with different things. Like this will be my first Ramadan experimenting with cardio during Ramadan, which is kind of a scary prospect. I did a little bit the last 2 Ramadans, but never like a consistent progressive cardio regimen. But one of the things I like about Ramadan is it's such a time of discipline and sacrifice that I really find that my ability to execute on my training and nutrition goes up just because you're in that mindset of discipline. So the solution is carb cycling with volume adjusted for intensity. So let me see where I am. I think I just said all that. Oh yeah. So, and again, I mentioned progressive cardio if well tolerated. So again, I'm going to be guinea pigging that on myself. If any of you guys want to guinea pig that on yourselves, feel free. However, like Akram, I know you're watching this video. Don't do that. Just focus on maintaining and gaining strength. Sadaf, I know you're going to be watching this video. You and I are probably going to guinea pig this cardio together, although I don't blame you if you want to opt out. We're going to be doing the cardio at a very low intensity and a low amount, but I am for sure going to be doing progressive cardio during Ramadan because I do want to get ripped. So A couple other prerequisites for Ramadan. So as you guys know, the 3 pillars of my system are always constructing your body. So you're always reconstructing. You're always programming and reprogramming your mind, and you're always conditioning and reconditioning your identity and standards, which for those of you who are watching this on my YouTube channel later on, you can actually go to the video a couple of weeks ago posted, how to get into the best shape of your life as efficiently as possible. And that'll explain how each of those 3 pillars work. But what I really want you guys to account for, those of you who are fasting during Ramadan, is it's a time to not only develop spirituality and get closer with your family and Muslim friends, but to develop discipline and reforge your identity both as a Muslim and as a person. So the 3 components to Ramadan are your mind, your body, and your spirit. So the spiritual part is obvious. Go to the mosque, and that will all be taken care of because they're more of an expert at that than I am. Now, as far as the mind goes, like I said, Ramadan is an amazing opportunity to build mental discipline that is going to help you conquer all challenges, mental and physical, in every aspect of your life. And I've been saying that for the last 2 years. I've been saying that for probably longer than that too, but I said it first 2 years ago, and I'll say it again today. It is a challenge, but just like everything in life, the challenges are often what's worth it. For those of you in driven men, you saw my revelation today that choosing the hard way is almost always the right way. If you can do the hard way 80% of the time, you can afford to take the easy way 20% of the time. And as a personal example, usually I eat every 2 to 3 hours, and there was a joke in my old personal training gym, which is where I made those slides, that if I didn't eat for 5 hours, I would freak out, or if I get hungry for 5 minutes. So one of the things I love about Ramadan is it's a great way for me to conquer that story or limiting belief in my head that, oh, if I don't eat for 3 hours, I'm going to lose muscle, and truly have that discipline to stay committed to my faith. So the body, of course, is my area of expertise, and the mind has become my area of expertise. At that time, it was still just forming. Actually, I had already graduated with a psychology degree, so, but again, time with the body, let's get focused here. My area of expertise that I want to show you what I've learned over my time doing Ramadan on how to minimize your hunger or how tired you get. So yes, it's Ramadan. You're going to get hungry. You're going to get tired. So this is kind of a bold claim, how to not get hungry or tired. Let's be honest, you're going to face some hunger and lethargy. However, we can minimize those things with your nutritional protocol and with your training protocol. Another one is how to maximize your muscle retention and potentially even gain muscle. In Ramadan of 2017, I actually gained muscle, and I also gained some weight, again, because I was in a caloric surplus. And how to maximize how much fat you lose without losing much muscle, if any at all. So there are different nutrition programs for different goals. Training-wise, though, I stand pretty firmly by my training protocol for Ramadan. Now, a couple other things that most Muslims do wrong. So again, if you are either doing, if you're making excuses during Ramadan, which, I get it, it's hard, but you still got to be able to train hard. You got to be able to truly be accountable to training hard and programming your workouts properly and being accountable to actually go to the gym. Because at the end of the day, like I can say you have to train hard during Ramadan if you want to make the most out of it. But if you just make it to the gym, that's a win. Because one of the biggest reasons why people fail and one of the biggest mistakes people make is not being consistent. And that's both inside and outside Ramadan. So Akram, I want to commend you, man, because you were texting me earlier today, and I know that there was a situation with legs yesterday, and I was straight up told you could combine the workouts. You're like, no, I'm going to make sure that I stay accountable to getting that whole week in before Ramadan, because I'm a driven man. I'm going to make this happen. And honestly, I'm very proud of you for that. So great job, brother. And then another big mistake people make is, yes, I get it. In Ramadan, we spend a lot of time with family. And unfortunately, in our Muslim culture, and a lot of cultures within the Muslim world, we tend to just eat a lot of sweets during Ramadan. And when I made this slide 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whenever I did this presentation, I was really triggered about that because it used to piss me off that, like, Muslims are eating like baklava and all this other junk shit food during Ramadan. So if you eat sweets during Ramadan, you're throwing away an opportunity to get ripped and build discipline. Now, I get it. We're all human. So I've programmed in some cheat meals in week 3 and 4. But the first 2 weeks of Ramadan, come on, man, try to sprint. You got this. And again, my solution at the time was knowledge and discipline mindset, no excuses. I get it. We're all human. None of us are perfect. But, that's one of the biggest things I specialize in is helping you build your mindset and your discipline. So, of course, I'm going to be holding you accountable if you're one of my clients to making sure that you do follow through on not binging in the shit foods during Ramadan. And then the other mistake that people make, and I've been guilty of this for sure, is binge eating during Ramadan. Because it's like you've been fasting all day. There's all this delicious food in front of you. Most of it isn't healthy. A lot of people just, they binge eat, and because your metabolism has been slowed all day from not eating, now your body retains a lot of that food because evolutionarily speaking, our ancestors had a scarcity of food. And so You know, only in very, very recent modern times has there been such an abundance of food. So all the human adaptations throughout all of human history have been to conserve calories during periods of starvation. So that applies to Ramadan. It's very important that you do indeed surround yourself with people who keep you motivated and accountable, and that you are committed to truly making the most out of Ramadan and being determined and keeping that mind over matter. And again, if you need somebody to reach out to, I am here for you. I always got your back to make sure that you stick with it. So Akram, don't worry, you're going to get good results this Ramadan because I'm going to make sure you do. I got your back. Same for you, Sadaf. I don't know if Sadaf is here. I can't see who's on this call right now, but I'll see you afterwards. So here's a little bit of a meal breakdown. For suhoor, don't do carbs. So remember how I said I'm going to teach you how to minimize how hungry and tired you get? No carbs with suhoor, which is the meal before the fast for those of you who don't know. So it's funny because I've been trying to get my dad to follow this for years, but he still likes to eat oatmeal for suhoor. It keeps him full. However, for most people, if you do carbs in the morning, what happens is that when you consume carbs, your body releases a hormone called insulin. I talked about this on a hot seat a while back, a couple weeks ago. So if Danny, if you're watching this, then you definitely remember that because you've been implementing that very well, my friend. Great job. And so if you do carbs, your body's going to release insulin, which is going to store carbs. Now, the problem is that your body usually overshoots insulin such that your body stores more carbs than you actually consume, which results in you getting hungry. And it also results in you having low blood sugar. Well, actually, the insulin causes you to store more of those carbs, which causes you to have low blood sugar, which causes you to become hungry and lethargic. Okay, that's a big reason why those of you who've done Ramadan before have experienced that, where you get hungry and lethargic, and it sucks. So the key is to take this mentality. Look, I'm going to not be able to eat for 15, 16 hours, so I need to make sure that I consume as much protein as I possibly can with a little bit of fats, medium amount of fats to sustain me for the day and keep me full, but no carbs, because those carbs are going to cause my blood sugar to crash once the insulin has stored all of them. And when my blood sugar crashes, I'm going to get really tired, really cranky, and really hungry throughout the day, versus if your body's running on fats, your body's going to be much more easily able to switch to a fat burning mode. And then for iftar, there are two protocols that I've used, and you'll see in the actual, I think somebody just joined. Here, I'm going to meet you real quick. Boom, boom. What's up, Sadaf? Welcome to the video. So anyways, back to presentation. So essentially for iftar, there are two protocols that you can use, and you'll see that I've woven both these in with the carb cycling protocol that we follow in the actual breakdown that we're going to go into in a sec. But this was my original protocol that I used in 2016 and 2017 and a little bit in 2018 to, get the results that I was able to get. So in 2016, for instance, I was focused on fat loss. So what I would do is I would go to the gym, and right when it was time to break the fast, I would have 1 date, 3 almonds. I would take all the supplements that I was going to take that day, and then I would do a BCAA shake. And then I would go train, and I would chug that whole BCAA shake. And the rationale behind that is that BCAAs don't require any digestion. So it's basically amino acids directly available to your muscles right off the bat, which is great. I actually still like that protocol. The date, just because I like the tradition, right? But only 1, because you don't want to have too many carbs. Because if you have over 30 grams of carbs, you get yourself out of that fat burning mode. Then 3 almonds, just because I like having a little bit of a base of like some light fats. However, 1 date and 3 almonds is like nothing calorie wise. So you're basically still training in a fasted state, which allows you to lose an accelerated amount of fat. So that was a protocol I used in 2016. And I'd go hit my workout really, really fast, and I absolutely killed it. And I got really, really great results. Got like 7% body fat. Now, in 2017, that was actually the Ramadan where I gained weight, because I consumed a meal with 1 date, really, really high protein, medium fats, and pretty much no carbs. So I figured I'm not eating carbs, and it's Ramadan, I'm fasting, so I'll be able to lose weight. The reality is, what I did was, at that time, I was getting meal preps from a company called SoCal Fresh Prep, which they were actually really well-portioned meals, and I actually wish I stuck with those, because instead, what I decided to do was go to this store called Balboa International and Sufi Mediterranean Cuisine, and just get like a huge platter of kebabs, and then I would just meal prep those kebabs. So I would literally have Tupperwares full of kebabs and just eat them, and there was like a ton of fat in those kebabs. I'm actually gonna open this. I was trying to see if Sadaf was laughing at this because it's hilarious, but I was just eating a ton of kebabs, which did not work, because I actually gained like 5 pounds at Ramadan, and a lot of what I gained was fat, because again, your body's starved of nutrients all day. So if you eat that many fats, your body's going to store most of them. Okay. So that was kind of a mistake for Ramadan, although I did gain some strength at Ramadan. But Ramadan 2018, I was able to maintain really, really well despite a bunch of crap that went down. And a lot of that was because I prevented myself from going high carbs. So just checking I was going to try to check the chat box, but it won't let me while I'm sharing screen. Either way, never mind that. So, and then after you work out, my original protocol was to go high protein, low or no carbs, and low fats with fast digesting proteins. However, what you're going to see is it's a little bit different now. So let's see. So here is the training and nutrition method that we're going to use. So a little bit jumbled up here on the slides, but I'll get in and go through all of it as well as the actual specific days, which you're going to see on the next slide. In fact, I'll just go into that first. So Mondays, we're going to go high carbs. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you guys stack squats and deadlifts on the same day. Okay. And this applies to those of you who are not fasting in my tribe Driven Men, because we're going to be stacking squats and deadlifts. It's going to be a nice switch up with the top set drop set method. It's going to be pretty brutal, but it's going to be just a massive leg day. So for those of you who are doing the top set drop set method in Driven Men, you're also going to be benefiting from doing your squats and deadlifts just as one big day with high carbs. So if you're going to carb cycle and implement this whole idea of carb cycling, then definitely do high carbs on the day. But for those of you who are fasting during Ramadan, definitely do it. So high carbs, you definitely need a lot of complex carbs to have enough energy to do squats and deadlifts at the level we're going to be doing them at on the same day. Now, Tuesdays, we're going to have two different options. So you could either go low carbs or you could break your fast. So it's kind of like the same idea where you break your fast with 1 date, 3 almonds, supplement stack, and a BCAA shake. And I'm actually going to experiment with black coffee during that period. I've never tried doing caffeine during Ramadan, so I'm going to try that out since I'm going to be on the nocturnal schedule, which I've started to implement during Ramadan. Yeah, so you could either do that or you could just do a low carb day and you're going to be training shoulders. So the reason why we do that is because you're going to be pretty thrashed from doing squats and deadlifts on the same day. So it works out really, really well to have shoulders directly after that because shoulders are a relatively small muscle and easy to train. And for those of you in Driven Men, we usually do shoulders and arms together. So it's going to be a nice switch up and it's going to be very, very, very easy for you to just do shoulders. Now, for some of you guys, such as myself, we're actually going to be doing 2 shoulder days per week, in which case overhead press won't be necessary. And I'll explain that in a second. But for those of you who are training shoulders once a week, you definitely need to still get your overhead press in, okay? Now, Wednesdays, we're going to go medium, low carbs. Personally, I'm going to go low carbs for back. The main lift that day is going to be pull-ups. So we're going to be treating that as a strength lift, the same as we've treated squats, deadlifts, bench, and overhead press. So for those of you getting to that level, very, very helpful to boost your pull-ups. And so we're going to be doing weighted pull-ups. So like somebody like Sadaf can do 25 pull-ups. So that's freaking awesome. So essentially, to truly get to the rep ranges where you're going to make the same type of gains that you're making from deadlifts and whatnot, as well as your other lifts, you're going to have to add some weight because 25 is just really, really high reps. Now, Thursdays, we're going to be doing medium carbs and we're going to be training chest. So the reason why we need medium carbs on chest day is we've gotten our body used to low carbs on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And if you do medium carbs on Wednesday before back day, go medium low. Versus Thursday, we're going to go medium high. And I'm going to explain in a second how that relates to your body weight, because depending on your body weight, it's going to determine what exactly is medium, high, or low carbs for you. Low is always going to be under 30. But Thursday, medium carbs, you're going to be training chest. And, of course, your main lift is going to be your bench press. Now, Friday, we're going to be doing low carbs for arms. So I know that almost sounds kind of counterintuitive because you want to get a nice big arm pump. However, we're going to be doing low carbs because arms is technically a small muscle group just like delts, and it allows us to hit a lift while getting our body used to low carbs again. So the reason why we do alternation and carb cycling is to give our body a chance to resensitize to carbs while still having enough carbs in our system that our body knows what to do with those carbs, but having those carbs low enough that our body has to resort to burning more fat at rest, as explained earlier. So finally, Saturday, initially, you're going to keep your nutrition pretty strict where you're just doing low or no carbs. So the same as delt day number 1, which is Tuesdays. But week 3 and beyond, you can turn this into a cheat day because you've earned it by staying consistent. So if you're going to turn into a cheat day, you should probably change shoulders a second time. And for those of you who are doing my protocol, I'm definitely doing delts twice. The reason being that during Ramadan, if I'm going to lose muscle, I don't want it to be from my shoulders. Because if I'm going to lose muscle somewhere, I want it to be legs, which is why I keep my shoulder frequency up, because the last thing I want to do is lose any mass off my shoulders. Now, if I am hitting back and chest, that's already hitting a little bit of arms. So I'm already kind of hitting arms twice a week. And then, so that's keeping that frequency up, but I'm keeping legs at once a week. So that's another reason why I've stacked deadlifts on with squats. Because for me personally, I just want to keep legs as one thing, to where you're only thrashing your legs once a week. If you're doing cardio, you're going to be getting a little bit of a leg pump anyways. But if you have all your blood in your legs for the entire week, or sorry, if you're getting all the blood in your legs twice a week by doing squats one day and deadlifts another day, during Ramadan, you need as much blood in your upper body as possible so you don't lose upper body mass, because that can go very, very quickly. So that's why I've stacked them both on one day. But again, the reason why I have delts twice is because that's the last place where we want to lose muscle, because you want to maintain those wide shoulders. And that's one thing I saw with Ramadan's past, is like the place where I lost the most muscle during the Ramadans where I lost muscle was in my shoulders. And that really, really sucks, because it really destroys your proportions. I think that Sadaf would relate with that. Now, and then another thing too is another reason why I've done that is to give us a little bit of a break, because when you're doing Ramadan, you're flat, you're a little bit more prone to injuries, especially in the shoulders. So that's another reason why I'm personally not doing overhead press during Ramadan, and why, if you've ever had shoulder issues, I recommend taking that out as well. Now, someone like Sadaf, you have a back injury. In 2016, I also had a back injury, and I couldn't do back squats. I had to just only do front squats, and I definitely couldn't do deadlifts. And I was still able to get into the best shape of my life. So I'm going to show you how to do that, Sadaf. But again, that's more of a specific protocol for you. This is more of just a general protocol that we can all follow and use. And then Sunday, again, no carbs, because you have to resensitize your body to carbs for Monday. Okay, so I'm going to go back and explain a little bit of the top set, drop set method, as well as a little bit more on carbs. So we talked a little bit about carb cycling, which we covered quite a bit on the next slide, which was this slide that we already covered. Now, the supplements that you will need, because you know how I mentioned the supplement stack on the previous slide. So there are a number of different supplements that you can take, but I like to keep things really, really simple and focus more on the essentials, which are your training and your nutrition, as opposed to your supplementation, because supplements are supplementary to a solid training program and diet. So I'd highly recommend getting a multivitamin, just because if you're eating less, chances are you might be missing out on certain key nutrients. So GNC, Mega Men's, Mega Women's, depending on your gender, is going to be the best. This feels weird, doing a hot seat and, giving advice to women too, because it's normally just about driven men. But again, Sadaf, you just tuned in, I'm going to be posting this video on YouTube, because I had a lot of Muslims ask me how to train during Ramadan on Instagram. Now, anyways, so the supplements, and then you also need BCAAs, because again, if you're doing the protocol where that you're doing on the either low carbs or the broken fasted protocol days, you're going to need your BCAAs. And you're also going to need a high quality protein source to sip during your workout. So that's going to be whey protein. It's also very, very important, because if you're trying to hit 1 gram per pound in body weight protein per day and up to 1.5 grams, which is honestly what you should aim for, you're going to need some kind of protein powder. Because if you're trying to get this in only 2 to 3 meals, it's going to be hard. Because let's say, like if you're me, you're 200 pounds, you have to get 300 grams of protein a day. It's going to be hard to eat 100 grams of protein in each of the 3 meals. And if you're only doing 2 meals, 150 grams per meal, that's way, way too much. So the protein shake allows you to really stack that on quite effectively. Now, a couple different things. If you've never experimented with low carbs before, what you need to do right now, and part of why I did this video Tuesday instead of on Thursday, is to give you a little bit of time to prepare yourself. So try low carbing it for 3 days before Ramadan to see how your body responds. Now, if you're like most people, you will probably get pretty lethargic and pretty flat. But if you only get a little bit flat and lethargic, and then after a couple of days your body adjusts, you should be fine to even try the original protocol I talked about, which is the cyclic ketosis diet. However, the solution that I outlined with the whole carb cycling and the routine definitely works better. And if you crash hard, like a lot of people do, again, the carb cycling protocol is going to work a lot better for you, because this is going to make sure that you're not burning yourself out and not having any energy and any glycogen in your system. And for those of you who are just tuning in, glycogen, as explained earlier, is the carb storage within your muscle tissue. So, and then another way to kind of tell how your body responds to carbs is to look at your hunger levels during Ramadan, as well as how your past Ramadans have gone. So if you tend to gain weight during Ramadan, you tend to get fat during Ramadan, you definitely can't go too high on the carbs. This is going to tie in a bit when we discuss how many carbs you should consume relative to your body weight. Another thing to account for is that if you typically get really, really hungry during Ramadan, then chances are your body's very carb dependent. So there's two ways of looking at that. One, you could look at it like, hey, my body usually uses carbs, so you might need carbs during Ramadan if you haven't had time to adjust. However, and I know that this video is coming out like, the week before Ramadan. However, in Ramadans in the future, if you get your body more used to low carbs in the month before Ramadan, that will help a lot to prevent you from being super carb dependent during Ramadan. But either way, if you follow this protocol, which keeps things very, very moderate, I mean, I'm going to use this protocol, and I know that my body can adjust to low carbs very, very well. So, but I'm still going to use this protocol because I believe it's the best situation. And for those of you who have never tried low carb before and you don't know how your body's going to respond, your body's pretty likely to respond very well to this. So give it a try, and I am 100% sure that it's going to be one of the best possible solutions for you. And I want to hear your feedback as well. Now, cardio, you want to be careful with it. Like I said, I'm going to be doing cardio because I do know my body pretty well, and I already know what works well for me. But if this is your first Ramadan being a serious lifter, like Akram, I know you've been lifting for 3 years, but this is your first Ramadan where you're like really, really serious and on it, just focus on your consistency. So the fact that you're making it to the gym and consistently going, like I said a little bit earlier on this video, is going to make a much bigger difference than if you're like trying to optimize everything perfectly. So just go to the gym, do the program as written with a top set, drop set method, which we're going to explain on the next slide, and get your protein intake in, and then maybe focus on your other macros too with the carb cycling, and that'll be fine. But again, like if I could give you 3 bullet points, be consistent, do the top set, drop set method as written, and get your protein intake in. That's it. I mean, I guess water intake also goes hand in hand with that because you don't want to be dehydrated during Ramadan. But if you've done Ramadan before, you know how important hydration is. But yeah, once you know what works as foundation, then you can start playing around with other variables like I am with cardio this time. Now, just remember that the key is to not lose progress, and remember what the metrics were in the beginning of this call. You need to make sure that your squat, bench, deadlift, overhead press, and pull-ups numbers do not go down, and rather that they go up, which ensures that you're not going to lose any actual muscle tissue and that you're getting your protein intake in. And there is a very, very high chance you can make progress and actually get pretty ripped or potentially gain some muscle during Ramadan. So a couple different things, and I explained these a little earlier on this presentation. Insulin is released when we consume carbohydrates, which is a storage hormone that removes sugar from your bloodstream and stores it in muscle and fat. And the reason why this is important is because when we eat carbs before the fast and our body releases insulin, it actually overshoots insulin such that we end up with low blood sugar, which gives us energy, mood swings throughout the day, as well as making us hungry throughout the day. And then ghrelin is a hormone that's released when we get hungry. So regardless of how good a protocol you follow, even if you don't do any carbs, you're still going to get hungry during the day in a fasting Ramadan. So the cool thing with ghrelin is it falls into a class of hormones called growth hormone secretagogues, which means that it will boost your growth hormone levels in a way that is beneficial for muscle gain and fat loss. Now, does that mean that fasting is the ideal scenario for training? No, but it is a little benefit of Ramadan. In fact, little side note, another thing to account for about Ramadan, I'm actually going to stop distracting you guys for a sec. Another side benefit of Ramadan is it actually helps your body get something called autophagy, which is where your body actually, it helps you prevent cancer because your body, it's hard for me to explain it, but it was explained to me by a doctor where essentially your body eats away miscellaneous cells that it doesn't need, which actually helps reduce the risk of cancer. So it's part of how Ramadan is beneficial. And I can link you a study for that as well from the doctor who I had spoken to, or actually the family of doctors who I had spoken to. But anyways, back to the topic at hand. Leptin is a satiation hormone. So leptin is important and relevant here because when you satiate yourself with the cheat meals week 3 and week 4, which again were explained right here for Saturdays, that actually helps get your leptin levels up, which towards the end of Ramadan prevents your metabolism from slowing down. However, it's important to account for the fact that part of why your metabolism does slow down during Ramadan is because when you are going fasted and you're very, very hungry, your leptin levels go down, which causes you to store more calories. That's why it's very, very important that we strategically time out those cheat meals and we're not just binge eating like I mentioned on one of the slides for the common mistakes people make, because you can gain a lot of fat in Ramadan due to your leptin levels being low. You have to time those cheat meals strategically, and you have to go hit a lift afterwards so that the calories that you consume in the cheat meal are actually utilized for energy and for your workout, as opposed to just being stored as fat. And then one of the last things I need to cover on the actual nutrition, and I don't know why I put this under the tab of cardio, But like I said, the slideshow wasn't the most organized, but essentially, when you are very carb dependent, as discussed before, and especially if you're doing carbs with your meal before the fast, sahur, your body is going to have that blood sugar crash, and it's going to cause you to have various energy levels, versus if you follow the sahur protocol, which is no carbs no matter what, get well hydrated, high protein, medium fats. Your body's going to run on these medium fats, which is going to help sustain you for the day, energy wise and hunger wise. So, whoops, here we go. Kind of shot past for a little bit, but yeah. So there's that for cardio / a little bit of nutrition. And then here's the training protocol. So top set, drop set. So someone like Sadaf, he's in month 5 of the Driven Men's Fitness program. So he's going to be able to just do the 3 sets of drop sets after the top set. For you, Akram, you're entering month 4, which means that you're actually going to be doing different amounts of the drop sets after the top set. But essentially the way the top set, drop set method works, typically, not when used specifically for you, Akram, but just typically. So for Sadaf, for Michael Ramos, who was on this call earlier, I believe, and for the other driven men who are entering month 5, the way it works is that you work up to a top set of 8. So for those of you who are entering month 5, you've done month 3 and month 4 where you're doing strength training, where you're doing 3 by 8 for the first month of strength training, which is month 3. Month 4, you're doing the last set, best set method, which is on the last set, you're repping it out past that initial number. Now, the top set, drop set is the opposite of that, where we're actually working up to our top set first. So you work up to a set that feels like about a 7 or an 8 out of 10 as far as how difficult or heavy it is. And then you scale back to 75% and you do 3 more sets at the same number of reps with that. So you'll see that reflected in Trainerize in the trainer app for how many actual sets and how many reps you should do. But essentially the way it's going to work is week 1, we're doing a top set of 8, then 3 sets of 8 at 75%. Week 2, we're working up to a top set of 6, then 3 sets of 6 at 75%. Week 3, we're working up to a top set of 5, then 3 sets of 5 at 75%. And week 4, we're working up to a top set of 4, then 3 sets of 4 at 75%. Now, for someone like Akram, you're going to be doing the last set, best set method. However, because it's Ramadan, we're going to use the number of sets in month 4, which is the last set, best set method, but we're actually going to be using the top set, drop set method. So in Trainerize, you're going to see it show up as the same, because I still want you to get that volume in to ensure that you're getting as many repetitions as you need to of each of those lifts, as appropriate to the volume of the rep range, meaning I still want you getting 24 repetitions total in week 1 and 2, which is going to be 3 times 8, and which is going to be 4 times 6. I still want you getting 25 reps total in week 3, which is going to be 5 sets of 5. And I still want you getting 16 repetitions total in week 4, which is going to be 4 sets of 4. However, because we're using the top set, drop set method, you're going to see that reflected in the percentages you use. So Akram, just like everybody else, you're going to be working up to a top set of 8 on week 1, but you're only going to be doing 2 more sets of 8 at 75%. So you're going to see that reflected in your Trainerize account as well. Now, week 2, you're going to work up to a top set of 6. Then, just like everybody else, because everybody else is also doing 4 sets total that day, you're going to do 3 sets of 6, 75%. Now, for you, Akram, and anybody else who is fasting, who's also in mission 4 of the Driven Men's Fitness program, or in mission 3, actually, so mission 3 or 4, you're going to be working up to a top set of 5, and then you're going to be doing 4 sets of 5 at 75%. So that's where you're actually going to have to do a little bit more work than everybody else, because, again, I still want you getting 25 repetitions total that day. And then week 4, you're still doing the same number of sets as everybody else. So you're working up to a top set of 4, then 3 sets of 4 at 75%. Now, for all your other lifts, and this applies to everybody, you're going to cut the volume in half or even to a third on the days where you're really, really struggling due to whatever stressors hit you that day or whatever energy you had to expend that day. But essentially, the key is to get the lifts in, but do them with low volume. That way you're maintaining your proficiency on the other lifts without burning yourself out. But then on the main lifts, again, the strength on the main lifts is priority, which is why we keep the volume relatively high. And here's the body weight relativity to meal portions. So a couple different things. If you, so let's use the example of somebody who weighs 200 pounds. So if you weigh 200 pounds, based on the protein protocol that we mentioned before, you need to get 200 to 300 grams of protein per day. This applies both inside and outside Ramadan, but it's extra important during Ramadan so you don't lose muscle. Now, the question now becomes, how many carbs should you eat on each of these different carb days, and how many fats should you eat? Well, to be honest, I'm not going to do a whole lot of tracking with fats. I go by feel with fats. However, for you to get a feel for it and calibrate yourself, a low-fat meal would be considered anything under 12 grams of fat, 12 to 13 grams of fat, and a high or a medium fat meal would be anything with 15 to 20 grams of fat. A high fat meal would be anything that has more than 20 grams of fat. So even for sahur, the meal before the fast, you should not be consuming more than 20 grams of fat. 20 to 25 grams of fat. So like, for instance, if you do 5 eggs, there's your 25 grams of fat right there. And that's what I'll typically do. However, I'm going to keep that a little bit lower and instead get my fats from different sources during Ramadan. But the best sahur that you could possibly do is going to be a combination of eggs, protein powder, and some form of meat. So usually what I do is I'll do steak and eggs or turkey bacon and eggs. And then I'll have that with protein shake. And then depending on my calorie breakdown, let's say I do egg whites like I did last Ramadan, I'll throw in an avocado to make up for the fat I'm losing from the rest of the egg. So your macro breakdown for your sahur, the meal before the fast, will typically be, so if you run the macros, let's say that you do 10 ounces of egg whites with 1 whole egg. Okay, that's about 35 grams of protein plus 6 ounces of steak. So that's about 40 grams of protein. So that's 75 plus 1 to 2 scoops of protein powder. That's 100 to 125 grams of protein. So imagine you eat that 100 to 125 grams of protein first thing before your fast. That's going to sustain you for the whole day to where you're actually pretty well set. Now, there's some people and there's some research that says you can only absorb like 10 or 30 grams of protein every like hour or 3 hours. Honestly, that research doesn't really make sense, because if you think about our ancestors, a lot of our ancestors before civilized times lived in situations where they would eat, a big animal and then they wouldn't get to eat again for a couple of days. So do you think that their body just wasted all that protein and only absorbed 30 grams of that protein? No. So anyways, little tangent on that, which is why that study doesn't make sense. And also in my own personal experience, like, it is good to have a steady flow of protein throughout the day, because that is going to boost your metabolism and help you gain muscle faster. However, you're still going to be able to hit your protein requirement even if you have big chunks of protein throughout the day. So don't worry about that, about protein absorption. And even if your body doesn't absorb it initially, it'll get used to it once your body adjusts to the Ramadan schedule, which will happen within a few days, a week tops. So fats-wise, that's how much you're going to have with your sahur, the meal before the fast. As far as the rest of the day, on your high carb days, pretty much for all of your meals where you break the fast, you don't really want to have very many fats, if any at all, in that meal, because the more fats you have in that meal, the slower it's going to digest, which means the less food you're going to be able to get down after you work out, which means the less food you're going to be able to get in during your entire eating window. So it kind of ends up defeating the purpose. So you want to keep as little fats as possible so that meal can digest quickly. That way, and then your meal after the workout, you also want that to digest quickly. That way, as sahur, you can eat as much as possible, and then the fats in that meal will sustain in your stomach for a long time so that you don't get that hungry during your fast. Now, how many carbs should you eat? Well, here's what I'm going to have you do. On the high carb day, you're going to eat 1.5 grams of carbs for every gram of protein within that meal. So that's a very specific part, because if I say 1.5 grams of carbs compared to your protein for the day, that means that someone like me is going to eat 300 to 450 grams of carbs. No, you are not going to eat that much carbs. What you're going to do is, let's say that my meal that I break the fast with on Monday has 50 grams of protein, then I just take 1.5 times that. So I have 75 grams of carbs. That's going to give me the energy I need for squats and deadlifts. So I should actually get in there and adjust this slide a little bit, because I just realized it's not that organized. To be honest with you guys, I intended on giving myself a little bit more time to design the slideshow, but I was a little bit rushed to get it done today so I can present it right now. So that's part of why it's very disorganized and all that stuff. So I apologize for that, guys. But anyways, with that out of the way, let's adjust it now. So essentially 1.5 grams carbs for every 1 gram protein. And then for your Tuesday, which is your shoulder day, again, we're going to keep the carbs relatively low. So the cool thing with, in iftar, meal for breaking the fast, which you could call breakfast. So now Tuesday, if you're doing the broken fast protocol, you're obviously not really going to have any carbs. But if you're doing low carb is defined by anything under 30 grams of carbs. So regardless of how much you weigh, you're going to do about 25 to 30 grams of carbs as long as it's under 30. Now, what would medium or medium low carbs be? It would be anywhere between 30 and 1 gram per gram of protein in iftar, the meal for breaking the fast. And again, if you want some guidance, like if you want to break this down, because let's say you weigh like 170 pounds, like Sadaf, right? So if you need to get 170 to whatever 170 times 1.5 is, so that's plus 85, so that would be 255 grams of protein for the whole day. Let me actually take that out and put it right here. One second, there we go. So if we actually take that out and start adjusting it up here, so if that's the total amount of protein that you need to get, Sadaf, then, and you're gonna have about 105 in your suhoor, that means that your other two meals, you're gonna have to get in this minus this. So that's gonna be between 65 to 150 protein in your other two meals. Split between those two meals, which means that you need to get, and let's just average that all out. So if we average that all out, 65 plus, so it's going to be about 107.5 in each of those other two meals. I'm sorry, between those two meals, averaged out, which is going to mean about 53 grams of protein per meal. So if you end up having 53 grams of protein in that meal, that means that you're going to be having about 79 grams of carbs in that meal if you do times 1.5, if that makes sense. So anyways, that's in that meal. Sorry for how confusing this is. I'm going to type up a whole protocol for you guys, so don't worry. So again, Tuesday, low carb, you're going to be doing under 30 grams of carbs. Now Wednesday, you're going to be doing just about medium low carbs. So what medium would be considered at is 1 gram per gram of protein, okay? So let me type that out. 1 gram per gram of protein, right? In carbs. 1 gram carbs per gram of protein. So again, for Yusuf, that would be 53 grams for a medium carb day. And now if I say medium to low, then that would be 30 to 53 grams of carbs, right? Now, just straight up medium carbs would be 53 grams of carbs again. And then Friday, we go back to low carbs, which is going to be about 25 to 30 grams of carbs. And again, Saturday, a little bit of a cheat day. You don't have to track those, but that's going to be obviously week 3 and above. Before that, though, it's going to be a no carb day, okay? So anyways, I know that was disorganized. Again, my apologies for that. But I want to turn things over to you guys and see, do we have any questions? I know you guys both turned off your cameras and mics. I'm also, okay, so we have some questions in the chat box, so haha kabobs. Okay, so Akram asked, what is medium low carb? How many carbs is that? That was asked about 15 minutes ago. So Akram, let me know if that last slide answered your question. And then let me see if there's any questions in the actual Facebook group. So, okay, no questions on Facebook. Perfect. All right, guys. So if you have any other questions, just comment on the Facebook post in Driven Men. And for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, just go ahead and type a comment in the comments below. Oh, Sadaf's here. Okay, cool. Sadaf, any questions?
Honestly, I was just sitting in trying to take everything in, trying to understand all the process. But I do have one question.
Yes.
25 to 30 grams, that's really less amount of carbs. That's probably half a piece of bread. How am I going to survive that?
So those are only on the low carb days.
Yeah, I know. Half a piece of bread. I'm going to die.
So that's all the low carb days, but the other days you're going to carb up. So like you will be able to train delts on that. Again, what I would recommend is just do the fasted protocol. Because if you want to get ripped during Ramadan, like it's totally going to help if you just go BCAAs, multivitamin, supplement stack, you know, whatever else you want to add to that, just as long as it doesn't have any calories. Break that with a date, which is like 15 grams of carbs with 10 to 15 grams of carbs with like 3 almonds, and just go train. Because you're going to be fasted, but once your body starts to adjust, your body's going to retain the carbs from Monday for that day. And so you're still going to be able to get a really, really good pump while still being in enough of a fasted state that everything you burn is going to be straight fat.
Gotcha. Now, another question I have. So, um, I understand the breakdown of the carbs and stuff like that, but is there a way to put this in a plan? Kind of like,
Yeah,
hey, morning, we're gonna eat this. After fasting, eat
absolutely.
this.
Absolutely. So, like I said, I'm going to put together a document for you guys. I'll send that over in a PDF. That way you actually have like a written format. Because I know it's one thing to learn it from a video, but it's another thing to actually have it in front of you as a reference guide. So I'll make sure I have that for you. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Of course. Of course.
And I can make it into like an Excel sheet so you can just kind of plug and play and it'll tell you all the numbers for every day of the week.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'll do is I'll make an Excel sheet just like the one that we have for the normal nutrition protocol. That way you can just plug it in and it'll be very, very easy.
Cool.
All right. Awesome, guys. Any other questions?
Yeah. Should I go train today? Because I maybe.
Huh? How's your back?
Well, if I sit, I can't stand. If I stand, I can't move. Like I get stuck in fixed positions. Whatever
Got
that
it.
may be.
Yeah, I'd say just let the back recover, man, because it's already feeling better from yesterday, right?
Yes, much better from yesterday.
Okay, good. So yeah, if it's already recovering, there's no need to interrupt that recovery process. So just let it heal today, and then you could always do chest tomorrow. And who knows, maybe this is exactly what your body needs before Ramadan is a little bit of a break.
Gotcha.
Unless you feel like you're
Okay.
when you're traveling. But
Well, I was thinking, like, I mean, what's the connection between back and chest and delts? You know, I can just do chest and delts, and I should be fine. But then I know myself. You know,
yeah,
same
once you
exact
get
thing
it
happened
down,
yesterday.
yeah. So just wait till tomorrow, and you'll be able to have a much better workout, and you'll also do it without damaging the recovery of your back.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I had a really bad back injury right before Ramadan 2016. So I wasn't able to do any squats or anything. I had to only do front squats, which kind of sucked. But it'll be fine. Like we'll just have to work around it.
Okay. No, I think I'll be 100% by next week. I just feel like squats have always been my nemesis. You know, to be honest.
Yeah, same. All right. Well, any other questions, guys?
That's all I got.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's up?
I'm gonna need some motivation, guys.
Oh, of course. Well, hey, that's what we're all here for, right?
Woo, this is gonna be tough.
Oh, I know. Hey, well, don't worry. We're gonna have you, me, Nether, Kuram. We got a lot of Muslims in the group, and of course, you know, whatever you need, I'm gonna help you with it. And again, remember, you're cutting the volume in half, even to a third, especially for time management purposes. So, like, the volume is gonna be very, very low. The only main thing that's gonna be like a true challenge is getting the volume in on the main lifts. But remember, since you're doing the top set, drop set method, it's going to be very much adjusted for how you feel that day because you're only working up to a weight that feels like a 7 or 8 out of 10. Now, the reason I limited it to 7 or 8 out of 10, because I know it sounds very low intensity, is I know people like Sadaf are actually going to do a 9 or a 10 if I say 7 or 8. And I know that if I say 9 or a 10, Sadaf's going to go injure himself again. So, you know, it's just gotta keep a cap on it. But then for someone like you, Akram, where it's like, hey man, like you're a freaking pharmacist all day and then, you know, shit's hard and like, you know, you got family commitments and everything. Like the fact that you're able to go in there and not be stressed that holy shit, I have to lift as heavy as possible. Oh, look at that food, man. Wow. Damn, Sadaf, you got me all distracted now. Gotta freaking cook for me, man. I'm gonna have you cater the Ramadan food during the Ramadan meetup groups. But yeah, for someone like you, Akram, the top set drop set method will be great because you'll be able to push as hard as you feel comfortable with that day and then get your volume in with 75%. Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, awesome. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to put together that Excel spreadsheet for you guys. And then is there anything else you want me to write down on the Excel sheet that's going to help you guys when you're actually in the gym working out during Ramadan? Because the workouts are going to be on Trainerize, so don't worry, you guys are going to have that. Akram, anything else? Akram, anything else you want on Excel?
No. As long as they're going to be on Trainerize, because I sort of get it, but you know, I mean, that's it. Thanks very much, man. I think that Excel. I think it's going to really come down to diet. But you know, I think that Excel sheet is going to really make the difference for at least me.
Absolutely. And you know what I'll do? I'll also include this in the Excel sheet. I'll put a 75% calculator for the top set drop set method. That way you can use that in conjunction with Trainerize where you don't actually have to manually do the calculation yourself. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, awesome. Akram keeps meeting himself, so that's funny. All right, guys. Well, any other questions, shoot me a text. There's Sadat's biceps and chest, looking jacked as always, man. So, you know, he's always showing off. No, I'm kidding. But anyway, speaking of showing off, I will see you guys later. Keep up the great work, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, peace.
Peace, guys.